Okay, so today I'm going to make nearly 0 carb meatballs, and we're going to serve it over some Zoodles. So I hope you enjoy the recipe. Okay, so let's make the meatballs first. So the first thing that I have in this big bowl is a pound of ground pork and a pound of ground hamburger, ground beef. And so to the meats, I'm going to add a half a cup of Parmesan cheese. You're probably wondering, why did I use such a big processor to grate all my cheese? Well, I've got more cheese to grate later, so I thought I would just use that. So, half a cup of Parmesan cheese and a half a cup of heavy whipping cream. And then I've got 2 eggs. I'm going to beat those up real quick. I know, I should have had this done ahead of time, huh? Maybe it'd be more entertaining if I'm in the view of the camera. All right, 2 eggs beaten. Isn't that a cute little beater? About 2 tablespoons of dried parsley. I'm going to use a tablespoon. About a tablespoon of onion powder. And 2 tablespoons of garlic. I know garlic and onion powder has a little bit of carbs in it, but for as many meatballs as you're making, it's really not that much. And don't skip on it because it really adds to the flavor of your meatballs. And then we're going to add about a teaspoon of salt, which this is a tablespoon that I'm using right here. And so a third of that would be a teaspoon of salt. And then probably about a teaspoon of pepper. For me, I did a little bit more because I love pepper. Okay. And then the easiest way for me to mix this up is to do it by hand. And I don't want to get all that ground beef and everything under my fingernails, so I like to use gloves because that's what I'm used to doing at work anyway. So let's put those babies on. Mix it all up. So much faster by hand. And when it comes down to it, we're going to make our meatballs a little bit on the smaller side, because that's the way I like them. You can make them bigger if you want. And I don't know really how to calculate the carbs in these meatballs, but I'm thinking they're way less than a half a carb with just a little bit of seasonings that I added. The egg has no carbs. The meat has no carbs. The heavy whipping cream has no carbs really to speak of. The Parmesan cheese, I didn't use the pre-grated. I grated it myself. So that has no carbs. So yeah, I'm thinking this is almost a zero carb meatball. And if you buy frozen meatballs, if you look at the frozen meatballs at the market, they all have like 4, 5, 7 carbs because they're full of bread. And these are going to be just as tasty and delicious. If you wanted more of an Italian flavor, you could even add some Italian seasoning or some basil or oregano. That would be really good. But I'm just going to stick with the garlic, parsley, and onion for right now. Okay, so I have the oven preheated to 400 degrees. And I have my cookie sheet lined with some parchment paper, and this is the quick and easy way to make yourself some meatballs. Now you could use a larger scoop. I have a few scoops. I don't know, that's about 1/3 of a cup. That would be a little bit too big. But you can get some scoops that are a little bit smaller than this. That's just what I had handy in my drawer. But I'm going to make these little cookie dough sized scoops. And then I can, I like my meatballs smaller. So all I'm going to do is scoop it out of the bowl and place it in the pan. You could take them out and roll them. I don't really care if they're perfectly round or not. You don't really have to leave much room. Oops. In between the meatballs. Because they're not going to spread out like cookies. What you want to do is just press the meat against the side of the bowl. Pack it in really tight. Okay, so I'm going to finish filling up my pan and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm done with the first batch of meatballs. It made about 35 in this pan and I still have quite a bit left. So I'm going to make the first batch up, cook them up in a 400 degree oven for about 15-20 minutes. They're not very big, so they don't take very long. And then we'll get to cooking the second batch and start on our zoodles. Alright, so zoodles. So first thing I'm going to do is cut the ends off of my zucchini. And then I've got this is called Native Spring. It's a spiralizer. I have one that you crank with by hand, but unless I'm doing a lot of zoodles, I really don't like using it. So all you got to do is put the zucchini in the end and start twisting. There's two sides to this zoodler. It makes the side that I was using makes them kind of thin like that. Well, they're both kind of the same. I am going to chop up the pieces that don't spiralize and use them in my spaghetti as well. Just kind of slice them up. You'll never know. Alright, so that's it. Just like that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my Zoodles in a strainer. Sprinkle them with some salt, liberally. Kind of toss it. And then I'm going to let this sit in my, in the sink for about 20 minutes, or you could put it over a bowl and let it sit for about 20 minutes. And a lot of the moisture is going to come out of the Zoodles, so when you saute it for your spaghetti and meatballs, it's not going to be as watery. Okay, so it's time for dinner, and the Zoodles have been sitting in a strainer over a bowl. And I just wanted to show you all the water that's drained out of there. So this takes a little bit of planning and time, but it's well worth it. So that's about 2 zucchinis that I've spiralized and drained. So now I'm going to put them in a pan and warm them up. Okay, so my pan is warming up. I'm just going to put about a tablespoon of avocado oil in the pan. Add in my Zoodles. And I'm going to fry them up a little bit, just enough to warm them up really, because I don't like them cooked and mushy. And since they've been sitting in the salt, they're already soft. So I'm going to fry those up, and I'll show you what they look like when they're done. Okay, so now it's time to warm up the sauce and the meatballs to put them in with the Zoodles. And I'm using this Rinaldi. It's pizza sauce, but it's actually just marinara sauce, because this has the lowest carb of all the sauces. It's 4 grams of carbs, if that'll focus in. There it goes. 4 grams of carbs for a quarter of a cup. So I would say that's not bad at all. So I have just a little bit of this sauce, and I'm going to add in my meatballs. Okay, so I added in the meatballs, and I'm just going to coat those in the sauce while the sauce warms up. And as soon as that's done warming up, I'll add it to the Zoodles, a little bit of cheese, and we'll be ready to eat. Okay, so there it is, tasty and delicious. Homemade meatballs with Zoodles, a little bit of Parmesan on the top. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that recipe. And yeah, I made quite a bit of meatballs with the 2 pounds of meat. But if you know me, and if you've been around my channel for very long, you know that I like to, if I go through the trouble of making something, I like to have some for now, maybe some for tomorrow, and then freeze the rest so that I won't have to do this again for a while. Once I make a mess, I just want to make a mess, make it worth it. Okay? So, and I hope you enjoyed my Zoodle trick as well. So that's all that I have for you today. So until next time, keep calm and keto on.